Replacing shock absorbers. Preparing the saw for the replacement. For the in-feed side clamp, move the gripper to the home position before beginning. No positioning is required when replacing the top clamp or the out-feed clamp shock absorbers. Note: it is highly recommended for any clamps that have 2 or more shock absorbers to replace the shock absorbers in pairs. An extra step is required here if you are replacing the bottom 2 shock absorbers on the top clamp. You will need to push in an E-stop, then open the saw chamber doors to have access to a lever inside the saw chamber. For all shock absorber replacement, do a proper lockout-tagout procedure on the machine's main electrical panel. Push in on the yellow lockout side lever on the main pressure regulator on the machine, and do a proper lockout-tagout procedure on the lever to prevent pneumatic parts from moving. Remove any guard or guards and any other mechanical device needed to get to the shock absorber needing replacement, and save all the bolts for reuse. In this example, we will show the top clamp upper shock absorbers. If you are replacing the bottom 2 shock absorbers on the top clamp, manually lift up the top clamp assembly, then lift up on the hand clamp handle inside the saw chamber. This will hold the clamp up while changing the 2 bottom shock absorbers. As long as the lock nut on the shock absorber being replaced is still in its original tighten position from the factory, measure from the edge of the mounting bracket where the shock absorber threads protrude through the mounting bracket to the end of the threads on the shock absorber. This is the distance you need to hold when installing the new shock absorber. If the lock nut is not in its original tighten position from the factory, refer to the Maintenance Manual contents and go to the page that shows the shock absorber installation properties, also shown here. Once the correct distance has been determined, loosen and remove the lock nut on the shock absorber, and remove the shock. Remove the lock nut from the new shock absorber and place the collapsible end through the mounting bracket pointing in the correct direction. And screw it in to the correct distance determined. Tighten down the lock nut against the mounting bracket. Check that the air cylinder sensors that control the fully open and fully closed positions are set correctly. Their location may need to be slightly adjusted. If they do need adjustment, refer to the Adjusting Air Cylinder Sensors video. If you change the 2 bottom shock absorbers on the top clamp assembly, grab and hold the top clamp while pushing down on the hand lever inside the saw chamber to manually lower the top clamp assembly. Then, close the saw chamber door. Replace the guard or guards and any mechanical devices removed using the saved bolts. Then, reverse the lockout-tagout procedure.